So what a great day to talk about depression.
Right? Hey everyone, I'm Dylan. Welcome to Affirmitivity. On today's episode, I'm talking with Jeff Sumner. He's an accomplished actor, an award-winning director, a writer, an educator, and a friend of mine. For 8 years, he played the Genie in Aladdin, a musical spectacular at Disney California Adventure. And he has depression and anxiety, and has for most of his life. And it's been an interesting life.
Well, do you want me to start talking, or do you want me to?
No, shut up. No, you're going to listen to everything I have to say. Okay, here's what it is. It's free therapy, and I just want people to listen to me.
But enough about me. What do you think of me?
About me, yes. Totally.
Oh my God. Well, this is actually sort of easy for me because of the fact that I am in AA and I make no secrets about that. I pretty much live my life as an open book, that I'm an alcoholic and an addict. But
and remind me, how many years are you sober now?
16.
Wow.
November 28th is 16 years. That's a long time between cocktails. So I have 16 years sober. I make no secrets about the fact that I was an alcoholic and that I also had a crystal meth problem, and that's really what brought me into the program of AA. But so when I speak about a lot of this stuff, I speak through kind of the prism of AA, but I realize that that's not for everybody. Sorry, I'm just letting my dog out. It's not for everybody, and it works for a lot of people, and some people just don't care for it, or they kind of cherry pick and take what they need. But for me, a lot of that is directly linked to depression, because it's why I drank and it's why I used. Right?
Right.
It's important.
And that's how you coped.
Right. And it was my medicine. Yeah. And it made me feel better, and it worked for a really long time, and it was really, really fun. But as far as the depression component goes, that actually goes way, way, way back. And I guess I'll just kind of share with you just a little bit about my history with depression. So I knew I was gay when I was 4 years old. All right. That early. There was this kid that used to live down the block from me who I had this crush on, who was like my best friend. His name was Mitchell. And I invited him over one day and I said, "Hey, Mitchell, I got this really great fun dance that I made up. It's called the stomach dance." And what you do is you lift your shirt up, and then you have to bang your stomach against the other person. And he was like, "This is stupid." And I was like, "No, this is really fun." So that's how I got used to the art of seduction at 4 years old.
But that's the thing too. At 4, you don't know that's what you're doing.
You don't know what it is. You don't know what it is.
I enjoy this.
Yeah. So depression. Depression kind of ran in my family, and we're just going to put a little pin in that because that's going to come back later. But It ran in my family. I saw it in my mother. I saw it in my father. I saw it in my aunt. And then when I had this secret, at 4 years old and growing up and going to school and stuff. And I didn't know what it was. And kids used to pick on me. I was not good at sports, but I was good at arts and theater and dancing and fantasy and all that kind of stuff. But I used to get picked on a lot. And I also remember going to a very, very dark place when I was younger. And specifically when I was in 6th grade, I had what was called back then a nervous breakdown, where my depression got to be so bad that I got to be very suicidal. And I literally went into our kitchen cabinet and I pulled out a giant knife and I was going to make this very grand opera gesture, like I was going to stab myself. And my mother stopped me, and I saw what kind of attention that got me. So I did it again,
Mm-hmm.
and then those grand gestures and the fact that I had some serious depression problems, and because I was a really sensitive kid, that got me put into a mental hospital when I
Oh,
was 11
wow.
years old. And when I was 11, I was hospitalized for depression and suicidal thoughts, and also for this other disease that was called gay,
Right.
which was at that time just came out of the diagnostic book of mental illnesses, but they were still treating it as such. And
As if,
so,
yeah.
yeah, and so I was put on Dilantin, and I was put on all these really, really strong antidepressants, and and it was also the first time that I really got a sense of what it was like to be high, because they would give us these EKGs, or
Uh-huh.
EEGs, whatever they do
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
head, and so they used to give me these big pills that would kind of send me to this kind of weird place, and I realized, wow, I could really get out of my body and not feel me
Mm-hmm.
anymore by just kind of escaping that way. And that was sort of the beginning of my addiction and alcoholism. Because as I was growing up, then I would numb myself whenever I would feel
Right.
depressed or whatever. I would drink because it would make me a much better person. It would make me more fabulous and funnier and more handsome and, like, more desirable, and took away all of my inhibitions. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, the problem just stays there. And so
Yeah.
for many years, I just kind of dealt with it. As I got older, like after I moved to LA, because I lived in New York for about 5.5 years, um, and it was there, but I was doing a lot of drugs in New York, and then when I came here, I moved to LA in 1991, and did my first show at Disney called
Wow.
Goofy Tunes Up, um, and then and again was still like dealing with depression issues, and then finally when that show was over, it was only a 9-month gig. I needed a way to make some money, and a friend of mine suggested that I go talk to this Tupperware lady, because she said you can make a lot of money in selling Tupperware. Uh, and so I went to this Tupperware sales meeting, and there were 200 Tupperware ladies there, all singing, "I've got that Tupper feeling deep in my heart."
I
And I
like how
thought,
you say that as
this.
if, of course I know that song. Like the way you said it.
Don't you know it? Come
And of
on.
course they were
Come
singing
on,
that.
Dylan. Join me.
Of course, because everybody knows
Yeah.
that.
But it was like
Casey
a fucking.
Kasem couldn't get off America's
Yeah.
Top 40 for like 30 weeks. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
It was like a fucking cult. Okay. And but
I'm
I
sorry,
was like,
like?
yeah. So I was like, if I'm really gonna do this, instead of like just joining Tupperware, I need to create like theater out of the Tupperware party,
Mm-hmm.
and literally become a Tupperware lady. So I created this character named Pam Teflon, uh, and for about close to 10 years, I literally became the number one Tupperware salesperson in the United States and Canada.
Wow.
Now, the reason I tell you that is because, first of all, it's funny, but secondly, it's because everybody was drifting towards Pam. Pam was becoming famous.
Yes.
Pam was the one that was on TV shows. Pam was the one that everybody was like looking towards, and Jeff was like becoming this big and this big and this big. And it was at that point where my depression really kind of kicked in pretty bad. I remember sitting on my couch, and I had this big overstuffed couch, which I literally just got rid of, like, just recently, thank God. But I felt like the cushions of the couch would wrap themselves around me, and I would literally sprout roots into the couch, and I couldn't get off the couch. That was how my depression manifested itself. I felt like I couldn't move. I felt like um, as much as I tried, I would spend sometimes a, a full on day into the evening sitting in the same place, and it took every ounce of energy to be able to get off of that couch.
Just get off the couch. Yeah.
You know, just get off the couch. So that's how bad it was. And then, so I eventually started going back to therapy because I knew a lot about therapy from having been in this mental hospital for 3 months. And so I went to, was going to therapy, and then eventually I went to a psychiatrist, and then they started giving me antidepressants, and I was on everything. And I don't know if I assume you've been on antidepressants,
Yeah.
but it you know, you have to find the right level of how that works, because
And find the right
like
one that works.
find the right one. And like I remember when I was taking Zoloft, I took Zoloft for a while, and it wasn't really working for me, so I decided I was going to take myself off of Zoloft, not realizing that you have to like wean yourself off of it. And I had this weird thing happen where my eyes, if I'd go that way or that way, I'd feel in my brain like zzz, zzz, like literally electric shocks whenever I would move my eyeballs. It was so strange. And so, but then eventually I kind of got the right balance of the medication I was taking. But during the whole Tupperware thing, to cope with that, one of the things that I did was that I started to fall into the whole trap of crystal meth. You know, it happened is like kind of have you ever tried crystal meth before? It's like, no, I'll try anything. And then next thing you know, I'm
Okay,
like
and so
smoking it. And yeah.
And so I have to ask, like, how did you find it? I can't, like, was like, yeah, I need to find a way to keep my crystal meth fresh. Have you ever tried it? Like, how did you go from Tupperware to crystal
Yeah.
meth?
So at this point, I was working, I had quit Tupperware, and I decided I had to stop, because that was really one of the roots of my problem. It was Pam. I had to like really cultivate Jeff. So I left show business altogether.
Yeah, because you basically lost who you were in that.
Right.
Like this whole other persona was becoming popular and famous,
and also I wouldn't mix them up. I wouldn't like I remember Donnie and Marie, they had a talk show. They wanted me to be on the show, and the producers called me up and they said, okay, so Donnie and Marie are going to ask you to like be Pam, and then they're going to say, okay, now talk to us as Jeff. And I said, no, I won't do that. They're two separate entities. There's Jeff, and then there's Pam. And I don't, it's like Dame Edna. I want to keep up the illusion, you know? So I didn't do that show, but I was very, 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 very strict on the way that I did that, because I felt almost embarrassed that I was doing this character, even though it was providing so much joy to so many people. I felt almost ashamed by it. And I felt, this is another important tidbit here. From when I was in high school, I went to a wonderful high school theater program where my high school theater director just was like my mentor, and he just really nurtured me. And I had this crazy competitive nature about me, and it was all about myself. So when all the other kids would do a show and they'd feel, oh wow, we just did this show, this was so fantastic, I would be like, fuck you, you asshole, why the fuck did you do that, you messed up here, you know? And I beat the shit out of myself. I would do the self-sabotage thing, and so the self-sabotage thing kept coming back and back and back. And so to quiet that voice,
well, do you mean the self-sabotage thing, or do you mean the self-abuse thing?
Both.
Okay, because like a self-sabotage would be to like purposefully, you know, not get the thing. I
mean self-sabotage in the way that if that I would put myself like self-abuse and self-sabotage kind of go hand in hand.
Sure.
You know, and I would sabotage the joy of the moment.
Okay.
By letting that voice just really put myself down, you know?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And that stayed with me for a long time. You know, I'm one of those people that will argue with people while I'm driving in my car, and I'm the only one in the car.
Yeah.
You know, so it's that thing. So the way that I found crystal meth, you know, we used to do little bumps here and there if I'd go to a gay pride or back in the day when I had hair, and then I started working for the AIDS Marathon Training Program, where I was the associate program director of the AIDS Marathon. This is before Disney. And Duffy, stop. Duffy. Sorry, my dog is tap dancing on
The talented dog.
Yeah. So and so it was my responsibility to train people to run marathons, and I had run marathons myself. I ran the New York City Marathon coming off of crystal meth. Isn't that a good idea?
Wow. I
Yeah,
feel like you'd be
and
doing that better on cocaine. Because then you'd come in first.
No. Yeah. Well, this was pretty much like, more extended, but then you want to have sex with people at the finish line. Which is not a good thing.
No.
So I would do these, people would come up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, how do you put decorations up at your running sites, and you meet us on the trail, and you're doing all that, you're wearing crazy costumes and you're roller skating. How are you doing that?" And I was like, I was doing crystal meth. That's how I was doing it. But I found it because even though I had dabbled with it, I used to go to this bar on Sundays where it was like a beer bus kind of a thing, and I wound up going home with this guy from Long Beach. I drove all the way to Long Beach, and it was a Father's Day. I'll never forget this. And he said, "Do you want to do some crystal meth?" And I said, "Yeah, I don't really like it so much. It burns my nose or whatever." He goes, "But have you ever smoked it?" I was like, "No, I haven't." And so we did. And after that, I was like, I want to do this every day for the rest of my life. And for a person that has an addictive personality and also suffers from depression, who wants to be loved and wants the admiration from people, that's not a good recipe.
And you want it from yourself too. And when
You
you're
want it,
so yeah,
you
so
want
you
to,
could
well,
but
yes.
you want that I mean, it's not the actual admiration, but you want to feel good by yourself as yourself. And if you're high or whatever, and if that's the feeling that it's giving you, it's not just like masking, whatever
Yeah.
you're dealing with, but it's also making you feel really good. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I feel all right now.
Yeah. And I just want to stop walking by a mirror and saying you're a fucking piece of shit every single time I walk by a mirror, you know? So that's why. That's the why of
Yeah.
why I was doing what I was doing. Now, so finally, like most alcoholics and addicts, I had that aha moment. I kind of crashed and burned. I didn't go to jail. I didn't lose a job, but I did come to a realization that this is not why I moved to California, and this is not what my parents raised.
Now,
And
was
and
it that moment, like that realization, oh my God, I want to do this every day? Or did you actually start doing it more and more?
oh no,
That's
that
what
was
made-
2 years later.
Okay,
That
so
was
yeah.
2 years later.
So yeah, that's
So
what
I
want
did
to
it for
know.
a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It went on for a while.
All right.
And, my mother found out. I called my mother in a panic, because I thought I had OD'd one of the first times that I had done it. And she's like, "Oh my God, I saw that on Oprah," and started like freaking out.
And you're like, I was on Oprah?
Yeah. And so anyway, I got help. I went to my doctor, my MD, and I said, "I think I'm a crystal meth addict and an alcoholic and I need help." And then he suggested a therapist. And then I got involved with Crystal Meth Anonymous, and then eventually Alcoholics Anonymous, because AA is kind of the umbrella
Right.
of all the other A's that are out there. And then at the same time, what I did was I was seeing a psychiatrist as well, because I needed to get regulated, because my depression was completely out of whack. And by doing drugs and alcohol, it was just sending me into these incredible depression fits where I was back on the couch again and all that stuff. So that's kind of the backstory of all of that stuff, which kind of brings me up to where we are today on how I deal with depression and what I do. And so when I hear, well, here, do you want the Do you want the bombshell first, or do you want me to talk about? Maybe I should tell
Oh,
you.
I'm so I'm.
Here's,
How
so
how do
here's
how do you
so
best tell the story?
okay. So here's the thing. So my when we were working at Disney in 2015, my father was dying, if you recall, and I was
Oh
driving. I
yeah,
was having to go back and forth to deal with my father. And quick story, I eventually helped him die. I was there with him in hospice. I held
what
his
is that? What
hand
does
while he
that
was in
mean?
hospice. He was ill, and my mother and my father, who had been married for many years, when my father got sick and started going into nursing homes, my mother decided that would be a great opportunity for her to get out of the marriage,
Hmm.
and she left him while he was in the hospital. So
Oh,
because I have the tools,
ouch.
I was the one who facilitated all of that, all of his care, and I literally held his hand in hospice while he died, which was a great. It was really, it was an amazing
So it's
experience to be
not
able
that
to
you
do that.
helped him die. You helped him as he was dying.
Oh yeah, I didn't tell him.
Yeah, you're
I wasn't
telling me.
like,
I'm like,
here, Dad, drink this.
I have some leftover crystal
Yeah,
meth
I
from
did it.
my.
Yeah, that was it. Oh, there's Dumpy.
Oh my
Hi,
goodness.
baby. Yes,
Oh,
I
what a
know.
beautiful
Okay,
floof.
no, Daddy's talking. Oh yeah, she's a. Oh my God.
Oh,
Okay,
fine.
so so that was in 2015. Our show closed in 2016, right? So one of the things that I learned over the years. Are you frozen or are you still there?
No, I'm sorry.
You're still. Oh, you were just.
I'm
Okay.
listening intently.
Yes. So, one of the things that I learned on how to cope with a lot of this stuff, what I call no matter what's, because you don't drink or use no matter what.
Right.
Um, I had a lot of no matter what's. So there was that. That same year, Disney pulled me aside and said, you know what, we're dropping you down to you're not full-time status anymore. We're dropping you down to part-time, so I lost
I
my
remember that.
insurance.
I remember that.
While all this was going on. Then our show closes in 2016. Then my dog died. My dog Sunny
Yeah, I
died.
remember that.
Then my cat Chester died.
Hmm.
Then my mom got sick in 2018, and the whole process began all over again, back and forth, back and forth.
Right.
Now, while all of this is going on, I don't know if I told you this story. I might have. While all of this is going on, my sister, who she never felt like she was part of the family. Okay, she never felt like she was part of the family, and she always thought that she was adopted. And she didn't look like anybody, and I look like my mom, I look like my dad, and my sister is like, I'm adopted. You got to get answers. And she wanted everybody in my family to take a 23andMe test because her DNA did not match the rest of the family. Going on and on and on, and will not let up. And she wants me to ask questions of my dying mother. You know, is she adopted? And my mother literally is like, I'm there with her the full week, and she's starting to lose the power of speech. It was very, very
Right.
sad. And I'm staying with my aunt. And so I drove back to my aunt's house. I said bye to my mom right before dinner. It was getting late, and at this point, she was kind of unconscious. And I went to my aunt's house, and then was going to go back after to sit with her. And my sister's bugging me again with ask the questions. And finally, I closed my computer and I said to my Aunt Bobby, I said, Aunt Bobby, listen, Jennifer will not stop bugging me about this stuff. Is there some sort of deep, dark secret in this family that you want to tell me right now? And she looked at me and froze. And she put her head down on the table. And then she looked up and she said, you're both adopted. So I was like,
Wow.
what? And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, your parents couldn't have children, and they adopted you from this lawyer that would provide babies to Jewish families. And I'm like, wait a minute. Who knew about this? And she said, everybody knew.
Oh my God. And this is only like 2 years ago.
It's 2 years ago. So I said, this was at 9 o'clock at night. And I said, could you excuse me for just a second? And I went upstairs and I called my sister, who's now freaking out on the phone, knowing that it was her, but had no idea it was me too. And I'm talking to her at 9 o'clock. I get a phone call from the nursing home at 9:10. My mother died at 9:05.
Oh
So
my
the secret
God.
was released, and then
And she could let go.
so now, yeah. So now
Wow.
here I am, someone who suffers from depression, who has got, at the time, 2 year, 14 years of sobriety, mourning the death of my mother, and at the same time mourning the fact that I have no idea who the fuck I am.
Right? That your life has been a
Yeah.
lie or something. Yeah.
Right. So, there were a couple different roads that I could have gone down here. And one of them was the road of resentment, which would not be helpful to me as someone who suffers from these things.
Right.
Or I could go down the road of forgiveness. And that's the road that I chose to go down. So after I saw my mother's body and I pulled there's that scene at the end of Mommy Dearest when she walks in, and I was like, well. You had to take it with you, didn't you? So I called my aunt and I said, you know what? I forgive you. Because I can't imagine what it would be like to carry around that horrible rock for your entire life, meaning that you had to keep it a secret the whole time. And then eventually different members of my family came forward, and they're, like my uncle was just beside himself that he had to keep this from me, and they wanted to tell me and they couldn't. And anyway,
So
the fact how to bring it back to this is that people ask me all the time, how did you deal with that? How did you process all that? And it's what I've always done since I've been sober. And the answer is, I take the next indicated step. I do what's directly in front of me. Mm-hmm. Because if I telescope out and I look at how overwhelming it is, I had my father and his health care, and I had insurance, and I had to sell their house, and I had their storage space, and I had to do all these crazy, crazy adult things. And then boom, here's your second act. You're adopted. It's like, for me to really telescope out like that would send me into a spiral that I'm not so sure I'd be able to come back from.
Right.
So what I do is that I literally look at what's next on my plate, and then I plan and I plan and I plan and I do it, and I show up to the best that I can. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it also, for me, a lot of my depression, even though it still comes back, I don't necessarily consider myself to be a depressed person anymore, because when I got clean and sober, I got regulated. Like, it kind of regulated my brain chemistry.
Right.
And I also learned little tricks of, like, when things would start to when things would really start to get me down. Like, this is a little trick that a lot of addicts and alcoholics will use, is if you're feeling depression, eat a little piece of chocolate, because the chocolate will release dopamine. Mm-hmm. And that will start to make you lift up, and you'll start to feel good again. Go for a walk and be physical as much as you possibly can. But sometimes it's hard to just get up off
I was
your couch.
Just just the idea of getting up out of bed or off the couch or whatever to go for a walk, just that can be exhausting.
But that's why something like this, what we're doing right now, and certainly what I do in Alcoholics Anonymous a lot, because I speak a lot in AA. Yeah. I just spoke I was the secretary of the big West Hollywood meeting out here, and the outgoing secretary always does the big pitch, which is like 45 minutes long. So I've talked a lot about this kind of stuff
Right.
over the years. So the very fact that I'm talking to you and sharing this with another person that's like-minded, that's really important. That's really important because you and I, even though we have different backgrounds and we're different people, I mean, we both played the Genie, but we have the same vocabulary.
Right.
It's like people that have depression kind of have the same vocabulary. Um, and that's why stuff like therapy and just talking to another person that has this is really important.
That's one thing I've discovered too. In that, I mean, yes, it's a lot of it is kind of like the same vocabulary, but even then, it's not even like a vocabulary as it is, and a not even like a worldview, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
you when you're aware that you have depression and anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
and you realize like, oh, not everybody sees the world this way, not everybody reacts this way. So when you do find someone, you know like we have each other and other people in our lives who have depression, anxiety, you don't feel like you need to explain yourself. There's not that
Mm-hmm.
need, because you'll get those people. It's like, I understand
Yeah,
you're,
cheer up.
yeah, just cheer up. It's like,
Think
why
positive.
why didn't I think of that? Oh, I'm cured.
No, no. Depression is a disease. Is depression is a disease, and I'll tell you, one of the things that was a great measure for me was when I did finally find the drug that was helping me, the antidepressant that was helping me, and we finally found the correct level, and I was
Right.
like, oh, this is how people are supposed to feel. So when you feel that sort of like I can breathe, would you excuse me for 1 second?
uh
Sorry, Duffy. No, no. Look at what you're doing. This dog, I love her to death, but she is such a fucking
what did she
bitch
do?
right now. I've got this couch
Right.
that's new, fairly new, like pandemic new. And she's on the couch. She knows she's not to be there, and she's like, like digging into the
Right.
couch. I don't know.
How
Anyway,
old is she?
she is. She just turned 1.
Oh, she a puppy.
Let me tell you, another great way to get through a pandemic: get a dog.
I would
I
say
wasn't.
not even just get through a pandemic, get through depression.
Oh my God,
Get a pet, get a dog, I mean, I'm
Dylan,
personally a
she
dog
saved my
person.
life. She saved my life. I got, my when my dog Sunny died, I was mortified. I had her for 2 years. She had cancer, and it was over the course of like 3 months. She had chemotherapy, and then I had to put her down, and it was horrible. I almost felt worse than parents.
Yeah.
That's how profound it was, because you have such an intimate relationship with your dog. It's like they're
Hmm.
there and they love you unconditionally, and it wounded me so badly. So there was a year, I had to let a year go by before I could even think about it. I actually went to a support group for people that lost their dogs.
Wow.
I found a support group, and I was like a little leery about it, but oh my God, it helped so much. Again, like just what we're talking about here, people were like, they got it. Like I didn't have to explain
Right.
what that bond is, because people are like, well, just get another dog. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way,
Yeah.
and so I got her when she was very, very tiny. um she just became available on Facebook. A friend was like, I gotta find a home for this dog. She just came up from Tijuana. She was like this puppy, and the maid brought her up, and so I got her. I went over there and I fell in love with her, and she literally saved my life
That's great.
during this pandemic. So you drive me crazy, but I love you. She's gonna come up and say hi. You want to say hi to Dylan?
I want to say hi to Duffy.
Come here, baby. Oh my goodness, come here. Oh, look at this. Say
Oh,
hello.
look at the baby.
Say hi. Hi, Boo Boo. Yes, I know.
Oh my gosh, she's adorable.
She's amazing, and I make movies with her. And okay, now she wants to play, and now she's not going to leave me alone.
Right.
So yeah, so that's kind of I guess that's sort of my depression pitch.
Would you like some? How would you like some depression? Sure, is that how you sold Tupperware? Because how'd you get to be number one doing that?
It's well, this is interesting because as a fellow comedian, it's interesting that there's a lot of comedians that I know that suffer from depression.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us had, look, doing the Genie was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that was a hard fucking job. That was a hard job.
Yeah.
Because the amount of energy and electricity that we would have to create with every single show, being in front of 2,000 people every single time, that combined with the awareness of pop culture, that with taking the risk of doing some new joke and fear of it failing. And I can't speak for you, but I went out there and like tanked some jokes.
Oh yeah.
Usually sports jokes. That just did not work.
Yeah.
And then having to recover from that, and then being able to think on those two levels of like, I'm going to do this, but I'm singing the song, and I got to do this bit of shtick, and then coming off stage, and then you're like,
I got to do this again in 30 minutes.
I got to do it again in 30 minutes. But for me, it was almost like it was not necessarily that. It was the end of the day after it was over. It's like, well, now what am I left with?
Right.
And I hate. Oh God, this is so embarrassing. But you know how the movie Soap Dish?
Yes.
When Sally Field does her mall walk, she goes to the New Jersey Mall to walk through, and there's like, hey, aren't you so-and-so? I used to do that. I used to, like, after I was done, I purposely put on my Aladdin jacket and just like walk through the park just to see if somebody would,
oh my God.
like give me some sort of validation, because we were so like, we couldn't get like that validation. It was a factory, it was like pound out another show, so I would like, I don't know. I used to do that just to like boost my morale a little bit, because funny. To get a compliment out of somebody in that fucking cast.
Well, and we had a very unique situation in that too, that, I mean, because everybody, they had that moment in the morning where they could all do their warm-ups together and everything like that, and they all had those moments. And as the Genie, you didn't get that, because if you were the first one
to leave, first one there, last one to leave.
Yeah, if you
were you leave early.
Yeah, you are either the first Genie there, in which case you were in the chair while they were doing all that, or you're the second Genie there and you showed up after they'd done all that.
Yeah.
And then in all the in-betweens, everybody's doing their thing, but you're going off and getting touch-ups and whatever. So
yeah. I mean, we were kind of removed from, like, it's so funny when I see, like, when I go, let me put her in the other room, and I'm going to be right back. Okay, we're going to pause. Hang on.
Okay, pausing now.
Let's go. No more distractions. So, it was interesting. It's interesting to me sometimes, like when I go back and I see some of our castmates, when they post things that was like, oh, remember this and remember that and remember. It's like, I was in the chair.
Yeah.
I was in the, so it was, but I have to say, that is, again, I can't speak for you, but I think that was the funnest job I've ever had in my life.
Absolutely.
There's
Absolutely.
nothing, there's nothing compared to that. And, I said this when we recorded our Friend Like Me thing, the Quarantini Genie thing, still available on YouTube, that we are part of a very specific brotherhood, where only we really understand what that was,
right.
and it was just it's just such a unique thing, you
Yeah,
know.
it was especially unique in terms of that experience. I mean, yeah, and we did miss out on some of that cast connection, but at the same time, it was still there.
Hmm.
There was
Yeah,
still kind of that separateness of it, but there was still just that
but
because
you felt like you were part of a family. You were supported, and like,
yeah, that
you know,
cast.
it was great.
I mean, to this day, still, like when we found out about Alexa and her dad and whatever, and just and then Jason,
Yeah,
the fact that 5 years after the show
yeah. I
closes, we're
mean,
still like reaching out and
we're
supporting
still
each other.
connected. We're still
It's
connected.
amazing.
Amazing. It really is amazing, and it also I I run into so I it's so funny. Maybe it's the pandemic, but you know, I find myself just living in the past. Like watching a video or looking at a picture, I'll be like, I remember when I did that. Like chugga 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 chugga. Crying during
Just the
doing the
saddest hug train
100.
ever.
Yeah. You're like in a wheelchair and I'm like chugga chugga chugga. Um, you know, when I just, I mean, the memories are so etched in my brain, and but it's been nice to that. I mean, talk about depression. That's kind of been one of the nice things about thinking about that, was because it was such a happy
Yeah,
time in my life. I mean, we had ups and downs there, of
of
course,
course.
too, but for the most part, it was really really a happy time. So,
So let me ask you this:
mm,
how do you deal
yeah,
with something like that when okay, so you're going through whatever, like just in the pandemic, and it's like can't go out, can't do anything, and so you don't know how to plan for the future, and you're feeling all down, and so you relive something from the past because it brings back a happy memory. Do you find you also sometimes, while that can uplift you and go, yeah, that was awesome, I'm really happy I did that and everything, but do you also find too, on occasion or every time, I don't know, that you'll relive those moments and then while they're very happy, you're sad that they're over, never going to come back, life may not get as good as that again? Like, has that ever sent you into like another downward spiral while you're doing it to cheer yourself up? Do you ever get that sense of like regret or loss or whatever?
yes. You know, for me, it's funny. Most of it revolves around financial stuff because
Yeah,
I've been in a lot of financial turmoil because of this whole thing.
sure.
You know, my teaching is kind of limited, and right now it's ending, so I got nothing,
Right.
and I'm not really auditioning, and I'm not, you know, so I could easily go to that place, but what I do is I keep creating stuff. Like I'm writing a memoir right now of
Oh,
all
good.
the stuff that I just told you. I'm
Oh, so
writing
spoilers.
a very extended. Yeah, there are some spoilers there, but it's also talks about like it's very a lot. Like I really go into detail about all of those things, and discovering my biological family is in there
Right.
too, which I'll reserve for the book. But oh my god, wackadoodle. But I try not to dwell too much on the past. I mean, I enjoy it, and because my old habit would be to dwell so much on it that I wouldn't be keyed into my present,
Right.
you know? And what I do now is I look at it fondly and I enjoy it, and you know, I'll sometimes post something as the genie, and
Hmm.
I'll send it out there, and everybody will be like, "Oh my god, I missed the show," and you know, whatever. Um, but you know, one of the things about the pandemic, and especially depression, because I got to tell you, I know so many people that are addicts and alcoholics that have gone out on the pandemic because it's been so bleak, you
Yeah.
know? But one of the things that I keep reminding myself is that they're just feelings, you know? Depression is a feeling, and it comes and goes. It's like boom, 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 and it
Yeah.
will pass. It's going to pass
Right.
eventually. Sometimes it might be a little bit longer, and sometimes it might stay. Sometimes it's just like, you can pull yourself out of it by pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But sometimes you just have to. Sometimes you just have to sit in it and feel it.
Right.
And
You've seen Inside
and
Out?
I have to say, I mean, yes. That
So
Inside Out is one of it's such a brilliant illustration. Yeah.
And the moment I'm talking about, when sadness has to sit down and just go, it's okay. It's okay to be sad.
Yes.
And just allow yourself to feel it. You can't live there, but allow yourself to feel it.
And I think that's part of the key too, Dylan, is that, I think the people that push it away, like that are like, just deny it, that's where it becomes a real problem, because it's not going to go away. It's something that sometimes you just have to sit in and acknowledge.
Right.
And say, you know what? It's okay to feel this way. And I know it's going to pass, but this is what I'm feeling right now. And what can I do about it? Should I call someone? Should I go for a walk? Should I play with my dog? And
should
then
I do all of the above? Yeah.
All of the above, and take my medication. Although I'm not medicated now, but
right.
But for a lot of people, they are. And yeah, but this pandemic has really tested so many people, and for me, it's really tested, because I've been in a lot of like financial fear. It's been bad.
Yeah,
and
a lot of sad, yeah.
And then it got a little bit, and this is the other thing, and this is something that I wish I didn't have, but I do. My depression and my self-worth are directly connected to my finances. When I have money, I'm like, oh, okay, I feel better. And when I have a job, I'm like, oh, I feel better. Okay, great. But then when they go away, and they are going to go away.
Yeah.
They are going to go away. There's the feeling of like, oh my God, it's never going to happen again. I'm never going to be rich again. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to be in a refrigerator box on the street. And, and you got to kind of, one of the other things that about me is that, I'm a certified life coach, and I don't really practice anymore with people. But one of the things that I used to do a lot with people is, write down a positive and negative list. Like, write down like all of the things that are like your worst case scenario, and then write down like what your reality is, or write down, it just helps to get it out on paper. Sometimes, so you can see it and map it out in front of you. Like where you are or where you want to be, those types of things. And that really helps too, but yeah, I wish my self-worth and wasn't so connected to my
just your general
my finance, but they are.
Yeah.
And it's not something I'm proud of, but and that was one of the other things, like, and I know you went through this too, but like when Aladdin closed, it was like, fuck, here we are, we're the fucking star of a giant show, which is now taken away.
The number one character in the number one show in the number one park in the world.
Yeah.
And
now it's gone, and now you're not getting paid.
and
now you don't have insurance.
and the mouse didn't care. The mouse was like, yeah, you can audition for this other show with everybody else. It's like, well, everybody in this room knows me. I'm not saying give me the part.
There's the humbling part. Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm not saying give me the part, but at least just bring me in for the callback. I've known all of you for 10 years. You know what I can do.
I know. It's funny with with Disney, I always found that no matter how much our egos would get big, there was always a way that it would get right sized
There was a
again.
check, yes.
And that was one of the things that I really tried to do that a lot throughout the years with Disney, because I know there were some of us that were that kind of let it get away a little bit, that
Uh-huh.
like, I am this and I am that, and it just isn't about that. We're a cog in a wheel. We're a funny cog in a but we're a cog in a wheel at the end of the day, and
Yep.
we're collecting a paycheck, and we're very fortunate to be able to be that cog in that particular wheel.
Right.
And I'm so grateful for that experience, but and it's provided with so many fond memories, but at the same time I feel hopeful. uh First of all, that we're moving through all this political bullshit, um and that we're in 2021, and that we're moving through this crazy ass pandemic stuff. But I also feel hopeful that there is another chapter. I refuse to go to that place like, I'm never gonna have that again. It's got, because I will. It's just gonna take another form, you
Or
know.
it's yeah, well,
Um,
that's exactly it. It's you're not going to have that again. You're going to have something else that could potentially be even better, and you don't know.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's
and
really
I'll tell you, Dylan, I found great pleasure in teaching. I mean, in these past several years, I found great pleasure in watching kids kind of have that aha moment that
Mhm.
I've been able to have as a performer, and watch them get it and be able to execute the things that I'm asking them to do, and they're doing it,
Right.
is is an adrenaline rush of a different kind,
Right.
you know? Um, but still, I want to get back on a stage. I want to get back in front of a
Sure.
camera again. I mean, I want to be able to do all that stuff, but it's changed,
Oh yeah.
it's changed a bit.
So there was
What
actually
else?
something else there was something else I wanted to ask you too, because you talked about like writing those things down, like where you are now to where you want to be. Actually, I have a couple questions about that. Just for your own, how much do you ever do any like regular journaling or any sort of like, because you said writing things down helps you a lot. So is that something you do on a regular basis or just when you're stuck, or how do you implement
I
that to help?
used to. I used to journal a lot, especially when I first got sober. It was kind of required that we did a lot of writing.
Right.
Um, so I don't really do that so much anymore. But my friend Patty, um, is really into this thing called conditions of satisfaction.
Okay.
So if there's some sort of something, like, for example, if I applied for some job,
Bless you.
if I'm up for like some acting job, and she's like, okay, so what are your conditions of satisfaction for this job? So what you do is you write in the present tense of, I see myself pulling up into a studio in my own parking space. I am walking into my dressing room where and going over to the craft service table, or
Right. Right.
whatever it is, writing about it in the present tense, because your thoughts can ultimately create what your reality is.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that we have so many negative thoughts, so a lot of us get stuck in that negativity, and it gets we're on the couch with the
And it's
and
super easy to embrace those negative thoughts. The negative thoughts are so much
right.
easier. It's like that line in Pretty Woman. Why is the bad stuff so much easier to believe?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Because none of it
do,
is true. Because it's I mean, yes, you're writing things down to make your present, to make what you're envisioning your present to be your reality. Your thoughts become a reality. So if you are having those negative thoughts, you will have that negative reality because that's what you are creating for yourself, which
yeah.
kind of shows that none of it is real. It's the lie you choose to believe. Because you can say, yeah, your depression is lying to you. Well, then the argument is, okay,
It's
well then,
how
yeah,
much poison do you choose to drink?
right.
You know,
Yeah, if your depression is lying to you, well then
there's
all the
that.
positive thoughts are lies too. All right, then why would you not choose the lie that makes you happier? Because
Yeah. So do you know
it's
the book?
all in
Do you know the
your
book, The
head.
Four Agreements?
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it.
Do you know the book of the Four Agreements?
Uh-huh.
Well, they talk about drinking the poison, drinking other people's poison, other circumstances poison. We so much of our time is consumed with drinking other people's poison, and then we believe it ourselves.
Right.
So we become stuck. Do you know who Jack Plotnick is? The
I know
actor
the
Jack
name.
Plotnick.
Yes, okay, yeah.
He's really really funny comedic actor, and he's also an acting teacher, and he posts a lot of really funny videos on Facebook. But he posted this one the other day which was not funny and was really really informative and kind of transformational,
You say that like it
and
was
but done
meant
in
to be
kind of
funny, it
a
just
light
wasn't.
manner.
You say that like it was
No, it
meant to be
was
funny.
not meant to be
It was
funny.
not funny, and I don't know what happened to
No,
him.
no. But the way it was presented was great. And what he does, he really was talking about what we bring into auditions with us, which
Uh-huh.
is kind of also what we bring into life with us. But he used this metaphor of the voice inside of you, that what he does is the voice lives in your head, like lives on this side of your body over here, and it's just like swimming around. And what he does is that when a negative thought comes into his brain, he tries to push it out onto his shoulder as if it looks like a vulture, like you've got this vulture that's sitting there, so that it's not in your head anymore, and you could literally look over here, and he has this animated vulture that's sitting on his shoulder, and he talks to the vulture, and the vulture says, you're not good enough, you're not going to get this part. And what he says to the vulture is, I hear you, but I release you, because that what you're telling me is not the truth. And by getting that thought out of your head and then releasing that vulture, it it kind of worked that moment. So,
Right.
sometimes when certainly as actors we do this, but also when for people that suffer from depression or addiction, um, you could do the same thing. It's about being in that particular moment, sitting in it, and then taking the next indicated step, as a little callback from before,
Oh, look
taking
at that.
the next indicated step and being able to say, oh, you know what? This is not real. This is going to be fleeting. I release you. I release that power, and you have no power over me. And then just release the vulture, you know,
Yeah.
and then it'll reappear.
Uh-huh. And
No,
it's
but
and I think
in
that's
that
where a lot of
moment,
people
it helps you.
yeah, in that and I think that's where a lot of people get stuck with that too, is that um
Mhm.
one, it's because, especially two, if you're depressed, like everything takes energy. Like we said, just getting off the couch seems exhausting some days. So the thought of having to be that aware of your thoughts, to take that moment and go place the vulture, talk to the vulture, release the vulture. There's one, just that can be exhausting. And two, knowing that the vulture is going to return, that also becomes
Yeah.
it also becomes a part of you that's just going to go, then what's the point? Why did I do it in the first place if it's just going to keep coming back? Why do I keep
But the vulture is
choosing
always
to?
going to return.
And the vulture's all,
It's
but that's
always going to return.
and that's the thing. And then, but
Yeah.
I know that there are some people, and I'm guilty of falling into this cycle myself, of
It's
going
just, how long is it going to sit on your shoulder?
right. But then it's like, but then
How
what? Yeah, I'll go through the point of what's the point. Oh, that's something I say too. There are many mornings. I came up with this a while ago. There are many mornings where I feel like I am the championship contestant today of what's the point. Ladies and gentlemen, now here to play What's the Point? And I will have to, that's how I'll get myself out of bed, and I will have to come up with the answer as to what's the point. Because otherwise I will stay there.
Yeah. There's boy, Dylan, do I get that? Because I mean, there have been days where I couldn't get out of bed either. I mean, during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
where the depression comes on like full on. But here's another. I'm gonna throw a few more AA things down your
Sure.
throat. One
Ah.
of the things that was last Thursday.
What?
No, not during the pandemic.
I was
That's
like,
a whole
how did
other
you know?
thing.
Oh, you mean you?
um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. Um, prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation are two big AA things that some people can take or leave.
Hmm.
And I'm not really that great at either. Um, and it's a practice that really helps. And and basically the difference between those two things is, first of all, whatever it is that you believe in. It can, AA is very big on the higher power
Right.
concept. It could be God, it could be, share. It could be anything that's like bigger than you are, you know. And it could be, the air that you breathe, or it could be just the collective room of people, just something that is not you, that's not
Right.
focused on you. But prayer is basically asking for guidance, and meditation is listening for answers.
Mm, I like that.
So by praying, like, I want this feeling to go away, and I deserve than this, and please, higher power, Buddha, Madonna, whatever you whatever you want to say,
Magical salmon in the
please
sky.
release
Yeah.
me. Yeah, please release me from this. And that's the prayer part of it. But the meditation part of it is harder, because our brain, our vulture, wants to keep going on and on and
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
and won't shut up. So that's why it's got to be a practice. And for me, I try to do it. I'm not it's hard when I really commit to it. I can really do it well. Like Oprah and Deepak Chopra, they do those great free meditation things that you can get.
Right.
Um, but it's about just focusing on one thing, just like letting your mind just focus. And I've gotten to a point in my meditation where I have a place that I go. Like I can tell you where everything is in this particular place that I go to.
Hmm.
And I see my mom, and I see my dad, and I see my dogs that I've passed, and my cat. And it's a very pleasant, very nurturing place. And of course, the real world is always going to be like,
Hmm.
you'll hear a noise and something's going to push its way in. And the key is to acknowledge it, just like what we were talking about, sitting in it, is like sit in that and say, okay, this noise is distracting me, and now I'm just going to push it back out again, and I'm just going to come back to this. So then you can come back to where you are, and it's always going to be like trying to invade your space, but then eventually with practice it starts to stay away longer.
Right.
And then but it's like a muscle. You have to keep
Yeah.
practicing it.
Exactly.
And
I'll
that's
tell
helped me.
I'll
That's
tell
actually
you how
helped.
I'll tell you how I do it. I actually have an app on my phone called
Mm.
Insight Timer. I discovered this. So on Insight Timer, I can set up um, a meditation time. So I'll say I'll do 20 minutes, and it has like a little Kong bell that goes off every five. Um, and and during this time,
Oh, that's great.
I'm listening to just this. It can be whatever. Like, you can listen to water rushing or rain or just tones, or you can set it up like that. So you can customize that. But I have the particular thing that actually has worked for me. And every 5 minutes, just like this little tone goes off. And so I take those first 5 minutes um, to just clear my head and just focus on my breathing and think of nothing, and just try to just be in
Mm.
that place of nothing. And then when that little dong goes off, it's like, okay, I've got another 5 minutes. So now I'm just going to try to imagine,
Did you just say little dong?
I think I did. My little dong goes off.
When my little dong goes
Goes off.
off, you might want to take that out in post.
Maybe. Or put up a graphic. You don't know. That'll be the thumbnail for the video.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Jeff and Dylan talk about Dylan's depression, how he
That's
deals with it with his little dong. Uh,
with this little dog.
But then like every 5 minutes though, like the first 5 minutes is just like quiet and still and thinking about my breathing. Then I will try to, like, the next 5 minutes will be about just trying to envision something, like just something that I want, or just like a feeling that I want to have, and what will bring that to me, and just allowing that to happen.
So
The next
each
5 minutes,
marker takes you to a different plateau where you like add in a different element. Is that what you're saying?
which is, and that's the way I've been doing it.
Uh-huh.
Like I could
I
just
love
sit
that.
I could just sit there and have those little 5 minute markers go off, or I could have no markers go off. I could sit there and just let me know when the 20 minutes are up, so it's completely customizable and
And
everything.
it's
But
called
it's
Insight.
insight timer.
I'm gonna check that out. I'm
Check
gonna
that out.
check that out.
I use
Have
it
you
for,
ever done any of the Oprah Deepak ones?
uh-uh.
They sometimes she release. I think you might have to pay for them, but I think they have a bunch of free ones. So she used to release like a whole bunch of free ones where Oprah she talks at the very beginning, introduces like what kind of the theme is, and then Deepak Chopra gives you he talks a little bit about the journey of more deeply of what the theme is of the day, and he gives you um a mantra. He gives you a word that you could keep coming back to and keep saying the word over and again. And then for like 20 minutes, they play like really beautiful, soft, kind of new agey
Mhm.
music. And then they'll ring a little chime as you come out of it. So it's kind of a guided meditation kind of
Yeah.
thing. Um, which is I found to be really helpful too. But I like this insight thing. I want to try that out.
Yeah, check that
That
out.
sounds like a
Because especially too, because there's so much on there, and you can like customize it for however you want to use it too. So
mm, yeah,
I use it for sleep sometimes when I just can't shut off my brain. There'll be like
yeah.
just a little sleep thing for like 30, 60, whatever minutes. And I'll just let that play and just sit there and focus on my breathing and listen to that.
I have what's that, Calm? Do you
Oh yeah,
know
yeah,
that Calm app?
yeah. Hmm.
I have that, and they have stories, like bedtime stories, but they're really like boring stories that are
Right.
supposed to
Meant
put
to,
you
but
to
you're
sleep.
not
And I
supposed to,
can't
but how the
remember,
story ends up.
and it's some British actor. I can't remember his name. Stephen with an F.
Stephen Fry?
Oh, I can't. Stephen Fry. Yes, Stephen Fry. He reads the story, and it's just so fucking boring. And so you fall asleep. It's like once upon a time.
It's well, it's like
So,
the big thing is those
but it's great
ASMR.
because it.
The big thing now is like those all those ASMR videos that people are doing and putting up on YouTube. Have you seen those?
What's that?
I can't remember what ASMR
No.
stands for. I could probably look it up right now. But it's the same kind of principle where it's like you'll have somebody speaking into the microphone and very calmly and very softly, not talking about anything. They'll talk about their day or whatever, or they'll just do a thing where they're kind of like just slowly scratching the microphone to make it feel like um, it's you know ASMR meaning. Here we go. Autonomous sensory meridian response.
Oh, that sounds so
Yeah,
technical.
I know, but it's just like these. I don't even know how to describe it. Like somebody just it's just the sounds of somebody brushing their hair, and it's and I swear to God,
See, I'd be
look.
like, oh, there's lice. Like that would make me
But
more
seriously, look this
anxious.
up. Look this up on YouTube. There are a ton of channels of people just doing these ASMR videos, and they've got like thousands and thousands of followers, and it's like it's
Ay
it's
vey.
it's amazing.
I do my web series Liza Tries It. Have you seen any of those?
Yes. Oh my God.
They're so stupid. But we like just trying to get people to watch those things is impossible. But if as soon as I put my dog in one of those things, I get like a million followers.
Yeah.
I'm dressing up like Liza Minnelli doing stupid things and making dumb videos with my dog.
Good.
Show business.
Good. But then it's not just show business. I mean, for your mental health, that's good. It's
You know,
keeping you creative.
it
It's
really
keeping you
is.
doing stuff. That's
You know, and
that's a big thing. I would say that's the big
that's
thing.
huge.
That was the thing that actually sparked all this. I think I told you this was my one of my dancer friends who was just like, there's no work. You can't go dance anywhere. You can't do, what is everybody doing? How do you get through all this? Um, and I'm very fortunate to have been involved in this, variety show every week, It's a variety show every Saturday. It's an improv show every Friday that I get to keep being creative for it. And that's helped a lot. And I'm been encouraging a
Yeah.
lot of my creative friends to just do something. It doesn't matter if you're doing it for 1 million people or 2 people. It's no longer for them or to build your career. This is just to keep yourself sane.
That's the thing about being a creative person, is that you got to get it out of your head, and you just got to do it, because it's like it we're our DNA is different than other people,
Yeah.
than normal people. You know, we
I'm so
have to
happy I'm
get it
not.
out.
I mean, you can keep the depression, but other than that, I'm so happy I'm not normal. I couldn't
Listen, I
imagine.
love being a freak.
Yeah.
I embraced it. I mean, that to bookend it, when I was that 4-year-old kid, not understanding what, doing the stomach dance in my bedroom, not knowing what not knowing what that was.
Stomach dance.
You know, it's I'm glad that I'm a freak that way.
Yeah.
you know, it sometimes it just takes a lifetime to be able to embrace who you are and what your gifts are.
Yeah.
God, Dylan, if I had a nickel for as many times as some of my friends that are not performers that have said to me, you're such a great teacher. Why don't you just go and teach? Or why don't you're so good at this, and why don't you go do that? And it's like, I've tried all those things. I've done those things, and I
Yeah.
know that I can do a lot of those things well. But the fiber of my being is telling me that I need to be on stage, or I need to be in front of a camera, or that I need to be writing or directing.
Yeah. You need to make
That's
stuff.
what I do.
You have
That's
to
who
make
I
stuff.
am.
Mhm.
And it's I'm like a dinosaur of all my friends that I went to college with, because most people are not in the business anymore. They've
Yeah.
left and they've moved on and they've done other things. And I and sometimes I go to that, you know shoulda, woulda, coulda place. Like, I should have done this, I could have done that. And
Mhm.
but I've had a pretty fucking great life doing all these kooky things that I've done. And I there's a lot more to do.
Yeah.
And I know that this pandemic has forced us all to put on the brakes, that we all have to put on the brakes and reassess. And for a lot of people, like, especially like dancers and stuff like that, it's just, people are really, they're like, well, what do I do? It's that line in a chorus line when they say, well, what do you do when you can't dance anymore? And I I'm just not ready to stop, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just not ready to stop yet. And
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 then,
listen, I paid the price for it,
right, you pay the price for it,
but I'm
but
just not ready.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you pay that price for it. But then imagine if
Hmm.
you were to stop, that price you would pay.
Right.
Because I've been there where I pretty much said I have to stop. And what that
Yeah.
did
And do
to
you want to live in
me,
regret?
yeah, what that did to
Do
me,
you
what
want
that
to
did to
live
my
in
mental
regret
health, what
this
that
whole?
did to my
Yeah.
family. Yeah, my kids have told me I was miserable to live with during that time.
Mm. Ugh. But you know what? Had you not gone through that, you wouldn't have known that that's where you needed to
Exactly.
be.
Exactly. And you brought up a good point there too, as you were just talking about. It's like, look, you took this risk and you're not willing to give it up. And you
Hmm.
sit there and you think about, you've done this, this, and this, and how great that's actually been. Um, I know this comes up a lot. A lot of people say this too, but gratitude is a huge component. And it's not necessarily just being like, well, I'm so glad that, everything's fallen apart and gone to shit, but just as just a thing to like sit down and go things that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
Just like write it down on a piece of paper and just go,
You froze
here's
up for a second.
here's oh, so just write it on a piece of paper like here are things that I'm happy about. Here are things that I'm grateful that have happened, or that I do, or that I have done, or things that I have, or people that I know. Even just, yeah, even if it's just somebody you know, I'm happy that so and so's in my life. You know, that's something to be very grateful
This is
for.
this what you're talking about is another principle that I practice. One of the things that I cherry picked from AA. Also, two things actually that you just brought up. It's living in gratitude.
Hmm.
I tell that to my students all the time. Be grateful that you're able to participate in a theater program where you're allowed to be creative, because a lot of people can't do that, especially right now. You know, so gratitude is certainly, to live in gratitude will also help you get pulled out of depression.
Right.
But the other thing, that is also a very big principle of AA that I try to incorporate into my life all the time is service. And that's a being
Mm-hmm.
of service to other people, so that I'm not thinking about myself 24/7.
Right.
Because as actors, that's really easy to do. And we
Yeah.
do, you
And
know?
yeah, because you think about it's yourself. I'm sure. What am I doing to advance my career? What am I doing to get ahead? What am I doing to get the
Right.
next job? And it takes you out of that moment. Like there were times doing the Genie where I'm thinking, I'd be thinking about like, how's this going to help, or what am I going to do when the show closes, or whatever. And you have to remember, I'm I'm on a stage. There are 2,000 people out there. I'm singing and dancing, telling jokes that I've come up with and everything. And not just for me, like I get to do this I get to entertain these people. They get to take a break from whatever and not think about some stuff and just enjoy something for a while. And I get to help
Mhm.
facilitate that. What an amazing privilege that is as performers, as actors, singers, dancers, whatever. To, yes, we do this for us because it fuels our egos, but I think it's really important to remember
Yeah,
what people get out of it, seeing
I
what we
you
do.
know, here's I don't know if I ever shared this story with you before, but this really has to go with about living in gratitude, but also being of service and of impact
Mm.
on other people, on what it is that the way that we can affect other people. Now, I know that a lot of us that worked at Disney could have been and have been, myself included, very cynical
Hmm.
about, oh, we drank the Disney Kool-Aid and, preserving the magic, blah, 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 Snow White smoking a cigarette back there. We shouldn't look over the
Right.
whole thing. But this one story, and I often tell this story because it really kind of encapsulates what that experience meant for me and for other people. And we had a meet and greet once. My friend Heather was there, and I, everybody goes up, and I said to the cast, you know what, you guys don't have to go up for the meet and greet. It's just my friend. I'm just gonna say hi, and blah blah blah. So I wait till the audience is gone, and I'm
Right.
waiting back there, and then Jonathan, remember Jonathan, our
Yes.
usher,
Yeah.
came back, and he said, "Hey, Jeff, there's a kid out there who would really like to meet you." And I said, "Oh, okay." And yeah, absolutely. And he said they're with this family. He's a special needs kid, and he wants to meet you. And I was like, absolutely, that'll be great. So I said hi to my friend Heather. She leaves. So I'm waiting out there in the lobby by myself. There's nobody there. I'm like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden the doors open up, and there's a father and a mother and this kid who is in a wheelchair, who cannot move his arm. He's like Kumi. He was a
Okay.
quadriplegic, could not move at all, but he had like some movement in his hands where he could kind of move his hands a little bit, and
Okay.
not great powers of speech. So you know how it is. You have to kind of shield yourself, like when people like that come in. So you really provide. You are the genie, and you have to
Yep.
provide them with that Disney experience, no matter how painful it is of what you're actually looking at, right?
Right.
So meet this kid, and the guy, the kid Jonathan told me that the kid almost like leapt out of his chair when he found out that he was going to meet the genie. So of course I'm like, oh God,
No pressure or
that's
anything.
amazing. And then yeah, and so I'm like, we're doing, hey, how you doing? And doing like high five and the whole thing, and like reaching down and touching him and stuff. And then the father says, hey, show him what you can do. And I was like, what are you gonna do? And he looks at me and he goes, chug it, 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 chug it. And he starts doing my bits back to me. And I cannot tell you how much I tried to hold it together. And then I said goodbye to them, and then I went back behind that curtain by the elephant, and then I immediately broke down, because it was just so it just really taught me that we just had no idea what an impact we had on somebody else. And that those memories, we talk about making Disney memories and whatever, and you're like, yeah, whatever, give me my check. And but we really did. And that was one of those instances that really like reminded me that it's important that while we're doing what we're doing, that while we're getting stuff out of it, is that we need to be of service and provide, because we don't know what that impact is going to be on other people.
That's that's a principle. I'm sure like AA talks about this, to be of service. I think that's something to apply to your life in general.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, like, you see those posts, like, you don't know what the person next to you is going through. You don't know what, the person behind you in Starbucks is going through or whatever. So
what was I heard a saying once, you never know what wars people are fighting.
Right.
Like, you never know what wars people are actually fighting.
Yeah.
So,
and yeah, I mean, like, even because, and just being depressive, a lot of times you got to put on that happy face.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, wow, you look really sad today. It's like, no, I'm sad every day. I just don't have the energy to not show it today.
Yeah.
So you never know.
And in a sense, that was one of kind of the miraculous side effects of doing Genie, is that while it's happening, you're not being depressed.
Right.
During that, 45, 50 minutes, well, for me, 50 minutes when I was, when you're doing the show like that, it's like, it pulls you out of that. And for that time period,
Yeah.
It's just when and then you're still like going like that after the show, and then it starts to drain out. It's like, how do I get that?
Hey, as long as it's not meth, as long as that works, you're good.
I know, right? Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh my God. All right. Thank you so much for this.
All right, baby.
I love you, man.
Love you.
I'll talk to you soon.
Mwah. I'll see you later.
All right. Bye.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you got something good out of it. If you like what we're doing, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications, and comment your comments in the comments. If you don't like what we're doing, don't be mean. That says more about you than it does about us. Just move on. I'm sure there's one or two other things on YouTube you can watch. If you or someone you know is suicidal or having suicidal thoughts, please, please, please call emergency services. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Just call someone. Don't listen to the negative voices in your head. You're not alone. There are plenty of people who care about you and want you here. And the world is a better place with you in it, whether you see it or not.